In the Scottish Highlands, where the mist hung low and the nights were as dark as the secrets of the earth, there lived a man named Alistair MacGregor. Alistair was a humble craftsman, known for his fine woodwork and the intricate designs that adorned his pieces. Yet, despite his talent, he was plagued by a peculiar affliction, one that turned his nights into a living nightmare. Each night, as the world outside succumbed to the grip of twilight, Alistair would find himself drawn to the mirror in his small cottage. There was something inescapable about the alluring glass. It held the dark promise of reflection. But as he gazed into its depths, he would often see not the familiar contours of his own face, but instead, a visage of rage and fear. The man staring back at him bore a twisted grimace, with eyes that seemed to glow with an otherworldly fury. This face, distorted and menacing, would send shivers coursing through Alistair's spine, forcing him to look away in terror. By day, Alistair was a respected member of his community, known for his genial disposition and hard work. Those who knew him appreciated his craftsmanship and often visited his workshop to admire his creations. However, as dusk fell, the atmosphere shifted, his cheerful demeanor gave way to a brooding silence. The dark hours loomed over him like a shadow, threatening to consume all sense of safety and solace. In a desperate attempt to escape the haunting reflections, Alistair began to avoid his own mirror. He would walk past it, casting his gaze downward, as though the act of looking could summon the horror once more. Yet, even those evasive maneuvers seemed futile. A feeling of dread permeated his home. At night, the silence would morph into whispers, and the air felt thick with unseen movements around him. Shadows began to dance in the corners of his vision, teasing his sanity as they flickered and vanished the moment he turned his head. He could hear faint noises, creaks and sighs echoing from the dark, reminding him that he was never truly alone. Fearful of what lingered in the shadows, Alistair made a radical decision. He would rid his home of every mirror. He envisioned a life free from the twisted face that haunted him. Driven by a mix of desperation and clarity, he set about removing the reflective surfaces from his cottage, one by one. Each piece of glass he disposed of seemed to lift a weight from his shoulders, and with every mirror he cast aside, he believed he was reclaiming his sanity. Yet, in that very act of purging, Alistair unwittingly unleashed a more profound horror. The absence of mirrors did not bring him peace, rather, it magnified the strange occurrences within his home. Without the reflective surfaces, the whispers grew louder, more insistent. The shadows, once confined to fleeting moments of his peripheral vision, began to take on form and substance. Alistair found himself gripped by an overwhelming sense of being watched, as though unseen eyes scrutinized his every move. As the nights wore on, the atmosphere in the cottage grew oppressive. Objects moved inexplicably, and doors creaked open on their own. Alistair's fingertips would tingle with the cold touch of unseen presences brushing against him. His mind raced as he considered the implications of his actions. Had he banished the evil he feared, or had he awakened something far more sinister? The line between reality and nightmare began to blur, and soon sleep became a distant memory. It was on a particularly stormy night, the winds howling like lost souls, that Alistair's resolve finally crumbled. Desperate for any semblance of comfort, he grabbed an old, ornate hand mirror that he had hidden away in a chest, a relic from his mother, who had cherished it dearly. Holding it tightly, he stood before the glass, bracing himself for the terrifying visage he had come to dread. As he looked into the mirror, the familiar face did not emerge. Instead, he saw a reflection of a man who was both him and yet not him, a blend of melancholy and rage, swirling together like a tempest. This face held not just anger, but an unspoken truth, a recognition of the darkness he had tried to escape. In that moment, Alistair understood, the face had been a manifestation of his deepest fears, the anger he suppressed, the pain he buried under the guise of normalcy. As he looked into the mirror, the familiar face did not emerge. Instead, he saw a reflection of a man who was both him and yet not him, a blend of melancholy and rage, swirling together like a tempest. This face held not just anger, but an unspoken truth, a recognition of the darkness he had tried to escape. In that moment, Alistair understood, the face had been a manifestation of his deepest fears, the anger he suppressed, the pain he buried under the guise of normalcy. With trembling hands, Alistair realized that to eradicate the mirrors from his home was not to rid himself of fear but to confront it. He dropped the mirror, shattering it against the stone floor. The shards sparkled like stars, littering the ground as though the night sky had fallen. As the last vestiges of fear and uncertainty succumbed to this cathartic release, he finally felt a surge of clarity wash over him. In embracing the fear, he found a profound liberation. The shadows receded, the whispers quieted, and although the darkness remained, he now faced it with unwavering courage. Alistair learned to coexist with the haunting remnants of his own psyche, recognizing that sometimes the monsters we fear are but reflections of our own inner turmoil. Embracing his humanity, he began to craft anew. No longer a mere craftsman of wood, he became a sculptor of dreams, carving a path towards healing from the darkness that once consumed him.